Half a day and welcome to the 4th anniversary special of My Story. I'm Kate Baltazar, your host. It was in May of 2015 that My Story aired the story of 2 women battling cancer. Since then, 44 episodes have aired, 33 of which featured cancer survivors, warriors, family members, and their caregivers. This monthly television program was created by the Sorensen Media Group in an effort to educate our viewers on cancer, what it is, how to lower your cancer risk, and of course, where to go if diagnosed for assistance. It is the stories that we share with you that touch lives in many ways. With that said, in this special 4th anniversary special, behind-the-scenes crew and former hosts will share stories experienced in this production. Stay right there. This very special episode of My Story will continue after this. Welcome back to the 4th anniversary edition of My Story. I'm Kate Baltazar, your host, and I'm very honored here today to be joined by former hosts of My Story. We have Senator Louise Muña and Janela Carrera.
Thank you.
Half a day, ladies.
Half a day.
Welcome to the seat.
Thank you. It's a great seat to be in.
Filled by such great people.
I know.
Absolutely. And I'm really honored to be here with you today because, as we know, cancer has touched the lives of so many of our friends and family. And having done this show, what is the story that is most striking to you, that has touched you and has left a lasting impression in your hearts and minds?
Well, I guess I could just start real quickly, but I know my motivation was my mom, which was that's kind of where the idea came from. It's like, because when she shares her story with us, I felt like this would help other people to get through their process of, finding out about cancer and how to share it with the family. So that was the story that I wanted to portray but I think the most important or the most memorable, if I can say that, was probably episode 5 when I interviewed, her name is Julie Duenas, there you go. And that was a really rough one for me because she invited me to her wedding. That was part of her wish to renew her vows with her husband. And she didn't even get to, she had perished before her episode showed. So I remember that one episode, and it was really hard to keep my composure that I had to, do a final, at the end of the show to say, that she didn't make it. So that was probably one of the hardest ones. But I think every single one of them are memorable. They all have a special story to tell, and they all have, a special message to people, like how do you recognize the signs, what do you do, and what's the process of getting through it.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think every episode that I did and all the guests on my show were very memorable. And to share a similar story, one of my guests was in a wheelchair. He was wheelchair bound when he came into the studio at Acanta to film the episode. His name was Patrick Cruz, Pappy Cruz. He had lung cancer, stage 4, congenital heart failure, and he was on his way to the Philippines for treatment. And as we were airing his episode, he actually passed away.
Wow.
So we had to redo the intro and the ending of the show for people to understand that in the middle of all of this happening, unfortunately, he passed on. And that also was actually very difficult for me too, because I didn't know Pappy, but we had mutual friends, and my husband actually worked with him. They were coworkers, and so, and also the hospital that he went to in the Philippines, I had friends there, and so I actually tried to, behind the scenes, I didn't share this with anybody, but I actually tried to help out behind the scenes as well. So I connected them with my friends over at St. Luke's. You know, I tried to make sure that his family had accommodations and all of that. So, you know, there was sort of a personal involvement.
And I think that happens too with all of the survivors that we interview. You just become a part of their life, you know, and it's hard not to.
I was going to ask, how do you handle that? Because this is a very intimate exchange of somebody's, you know, very personal journey, and sometimes it's highs and lows, right? It's happy. Sometimes it's really, really difficult for them. And how do you bear that, having now been drawn into part of their journey?
I think what people don't see behind the scenes is like when right before we turn the cameras on, you know, you get to know them a little bit, just so that you understand where their story is, and you try to direct it in a way where it could bring hope to someone else who's watching. And I think that's probably the most important part of what we're doing here today is giving people the education about what they should do, who they should see, and then giving them hope. Because you just never give up hope.
Right, yeah, I agree. Absolutely. And also, you know, I think for me, being on this seat and then interviewing other, you know, cancer survivors, warriors, even the caretakers, just that courage that they have is very inspiring. And so a lot of times I just kind of, you know, I let them just sort of bring it all out, you know, because I think just listening to their stories, inspiring for me, inspiring for our community, and then you get comments and feedback from outside, you know, when you're out there and they say, oh my gosh, you know, I saw your episode and I want you to know that, you know, that lady really inspired me, and I'm getting goosebumps right now. You know, just hearing the feedback that you get from the community, and how, although some of the episodes are very, you know, they're a little sad, and you know, but when you hear that somebody else, because of watching that,
it helped them.
Then you know that, you know, what you've done what your purpose is.
I think when the concept of the show first came out, we had only projected like 3 episodes, and just the mere fact that, and unfortunately, there's no shortage of people that we should be interviewing. But that's, and then to have Janela take over after I decided I was going to, you know, run for senator, I mean, it was a natural fit. And then now to see you, I feel so proud. It's like, well, look at that, we're going to carry on this.
I'm in the company of giants here.
No, I really,
so
when I found out that you were going to, you know, fill in and become the new host, I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, she's perfect.
Thank you for that.
So.
Do you have a message for those who are watching, you know, and as my story continues? What are your thoughts about those who are still fighting, the cancer warriors, as well as the survivors and their families?
I think the very first episode that I interviewed was Maddie Cruz, and she delivered a perfect message of continue to uplift your spirit, because if you don't have that anymore, it's going to be hard to survive anything.
That's
and
true.
Especially if they're already starting chemo. If your body is already giving up, then your body's not going to accept it and do what it's supposed to do. So I think the most important thing really is just keeping your spirit up, your happy thoughts, you know, and continue to just be around the people you love.
Yeah, for me, I think, you know, when I interviewed, especially the cancer warriors who were in the middle of their battle, for me, it was, you know, the story that they shared on because we only have 30 minutes, 24 if you count, you know, if you remove commercials, but it barely scratches the surface of really what they're going through. And sometimes when we talk off camera, you know, they kind of reveal a little bit more. And I think for me, it's just understanding that, you know, every journey is different, and it's a different journey for everybody. But what I've found for maybe almost everybody that I've ever interviewed was that the support really matters. The support of their family, their friends, because, you know, at the end of the day, you know, that's really what fuels them. You know, is knowing that they can get through this. You know, and sometimes they just need a little reminder.
And I think one of the things that this show has actually done too is taken the taboo out of the word cancer, you know, because a lot of people had that hard time discussing it. So now I think another good takeaway is to continue to tell your story, even if it's not on camera, you know, talk to people about it, because the more you talk about it, the more comfortable people get talking about it.
And the more they know that what they're going through is you know, they're not alone, you know, and it really contributes and really helps with their journey.
That's a great statement. You are not alone.
You're not
You're
alone.
not alone.
You are not alone.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies, so much. This has been such an honor to be with you, and thank you for sharing your experiences. I know that I will take them with me definitely going forth.
If I might just say that,
Of
you know, being here in my store, like the 2 or so years that I hosted this, it was actually one of the most difficult and most challenging, but also the most rewarding. And some of the people that I met, you know, I'm about to cry, but some of the people that I met have been like the most amazing people. So it's truly an honor to have been a host
To be a part of their story, and they let us into their story. So,
Thank
Sorry.
you for that. No, absolutely. Thank you so much.
and just make sure you wear waterproof masks.
Yes.
I know, I was
You're
going to
gonna
say,
need it.
how am I
You know,
going to get
that's
through
probably
this?
the biggest advice for the next
Yeah.
time.
And you guys know me. I mean, these
Yeah.
things really, really, oh my goodness.
It's hard to hold,
Yeah.
but it's actually a great responsibility for us to go out there and share these stories with people so that they can understand what it's like to be there.
And I
in
just
their
want to
shoes.
thank you too, Senator, because this was your idea.
Well,
Definitely.
like I said, the concept came from my mom. So
Yeah.
I mean, just carrying on that opportunity for families to share their stories will help someone in the future. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so much.
When we return from this quick break, we will hear from the My Story production crew as they share their stories. Welcome back to My Story. Before the break, former My Story hosts Senator Louise Muña and Janela Carrera shared their experiences. Now it's time for the My Story production crew to share theirs.
Back in 2015, when now Senator Louise Muña approached us about doing a half-hour television program just on cancer itself, I was just taken back as to what we could possibly fill the program with. And today, the show has grown, and we've interviewed over 33 cancer patients, warriors, their family, their caregivers, and My Story really is an educational and informative program as to where you and I, the viewer, we can sit and watch this program and learn from these people's stories and their personal stories, that is, because it's very touching and heartfelt for them to come out at first and share their life story, basically the toughest part of their life. And in them sharing that with us, we learn from it. We learn the signs to watch for.
The first show we did back in 2015, the team was just me and Kent Pueblo, along with Trina and now Senator Louise Muña. The episodes were interesting, but then they became very emotional. As a photographer, I don't like to videotape funerals, and this became very similar, especially when it came to the children.
So I was there in the beginning working with Zach on the first 7 or 8 episodes of My Story. And there's various people that stuck out, but the one that did was see Julie Dueñas. She was very late into her cancer. At that point, it was like just a matter of time. But one of the things that's really hit right here was when she and her husband were getting married, and we had to go to the church and record the ceremony. It was me, and back then the first host was Louise Muña, now Senator Louise Muña. And the ceremony was beautiful. Everyone, all the family was there to show support, because it was a Julie was really happy, or yeah, they were both really happy during the ceremony, but in the back of your head, you kind of remember the foreshadowing moment, like they're doing it not because they want to spend the rest of their life together, but the timeline was also very short. And then we did her interview, and then in the middle of editing her story, she actually passed away. And I remember Louise recording her stand-up to say that she sadly passed away. And she was broken up by it because it was, at that point, they were really good friends. And
prior to joining Red Dragon Productions, I never really knew much about cancer awareness or what to do when you encounter someone with cancer and their stories. And through my story, I learned a lot of stories of people who have been afflicted with cancer and how they dealt with it and their families. And prior to that, I didn't really know anything, but now I know much, much more. I kind of know from personal experience how to handle with it. It's about 2 weeks ago, my grandma passed away in Japan from cancer, and 3 days before we were able to make it out there and be with her. And it was kind of too late for us to do anything. She was diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer, and by the time we got there, she was pretty weak. We were able to just be there with her for as long as we could, and when she passed, I kind of was settled down already. I was not taken back too hard because we were able to be there for as long as we could.
Watching these stories made me realize that yes, there is a TV program. There is this story, my story, their story, everyone's story who has been afflicted with cancer. Because here on Guam and in the Northern Marianas, someone knows someone who has been afflicted with cancer, directly or indirectly. So my story is here to help you and your family members and those afflicted with cancer or not get the resources they need. And through that's how my story came about. And today it's flourished to a 4-year program, and we're looking for 4 more.
Because I'm the main editor, I would always be looking for B-roll or cover video, run into clips of other doctors and scientists talking about cancer. I had a best friend that died in 1998 from cancer. My father-in-law passed away a few years ago from cancer. Before my story, I didn't really understood what cancer was. It wasn't until the first episode I realized it's not a disease that you catch, like a viral disease or bacterial. It's actually your own cells that mutate and become cancer.
The most memorable experience I had working on my story was my first ever shoot with Isaac and the former host Janela. We traveled to Teason High School to do a presentation there for one of the classes. And during this presentation, they actually showed a past episode of a man bedridden, unable to move. He was on his literal deathbed. And I found it quite powerful, quite moving, and really sad. I never saw this episode prior to the presentation, prior to us visiting this school. So to see that, it really just struck a chord with me. But I think what really impacted me the most of this trip was learning about how one of the students there, she had firsthand experience with cancer with one of her family members who passed away from it.
I would say one of the most memorable things about working on the show that really stick out to me is the episode where we went out to interview Mr. Julius Hunt. I was actually the photog for that shoot. It was a 2-man team, I believe, that day, and then we also had Janela with us. I didn't know what to expect going in. We pulled up to the residence.
walked around towards the back, and it was like this little kind of like a shack or like a tent out back behind the house, and we come in and he's just right there on the bed, and it's pretty hard to keep your composure and all that, like going through the whole shoot and all that. It was just here at Red Dragon, we're storytellers. Our job is to watch and observe and document all these stories, and it was a really emotional shoot for me. It's kind of hard to hold it in, having being there and seeing him, it just broke my heart, and it was hard.
Through my story, learning about other people's stories, we were able to cope better, and we know the feeling that other people had, and that we're not alone. We're able to go through it with them the way they did. And on Guam, it's pretty much the same thing. There are many families out there who suffer from cancer, and you're not just alone. We're kind of all together through the same experiences, and with our families, we're able to cope better.
Another experience that really stuck out was when we were telling the story of Papi Cruz. I remember, just hearing his story and all that, and what just made it really hard was he had his family there, just on the side. He had his little girl running around in the studio, and like hearing his story, then I'll glance over at the family, and I'm like, oh man, it's heartbreaking.
It was one of the first times I met someone who was personally afflicted by cancer, whether it was themselves or someone close to them. The resilience on her face, and how she wanted to promote the message of awareness and to help people out there. Again, there's another thing that struck a chord with me. I found it powerful, and kind of shows that even though through the terribleness of cancer, there is a positivity, there is a resilience that people can show. And it's quite beautiful, honestly.
The show's not over just yet. Stay tuned and we will share some valuable information for those to help their fight with cancer. Welcome back to My Story. Before we close out the show, we'd like to share some information from 3 nonprofit organizations whose goal it is to help you battle cancer. We will start off with Guam Cancer Care. This nonprofit organization provides information to patients newly or previously diagnosed to identify an oncologist, financial concerns, and even help identify local or national resources patients may be eligible for. This is through Guam Cancer Care's Patient Navigation Program. They also have a financial assistance program to assist in co-payments, co-insurance, or even out-of-pocket medical expenses incurred. Another of the numerous programs through Guam Cancer Care is the Patient Transportation Program. This program looks to eliminate transportation issues to and from cancer treatments. Log on to guamcancercare.org or give them a call at 969-2223. Another great nonprofit organization built to assist cancer warriors is the Edward M. Calvo Cancer Foundation. According to their website, guamisgood.org, their mission is to provide financial grants to those battling cancer in our local community. Since their inception in 2004, the Edward M. Calvo Cancer Foundation has given over $1 million in grants. This organization also has several other services for those battling cancer. To find out more, give them a call at 472-6223 or check out their Facebook page, Edward M. Calvo Cancer Foundation. The final and more obvious, given its name, is the American Cancer Society. The ACS with your help, has been supporting Guam since 1969, serving over 300 patients each year. The monies raised through Relay for Life help the American Cancer Society offer free programs and services to ensure cancer patients and their loved ones do not have to face cancer alone. Contact the American Cancer Society at 477-9451 to access cancer information, wigs and head coverings, get help with off-island travel, and to learn about other programs available to make the cancer experience a little easier. If you or someone you know is afflicted with cancer and would like to share your story, please contact us at 477-5700 or send us an email, share@spbguam.com. Thank you for watching the 4th anniversary special of My Story. We will see you next month with another episode. Adios.